Hello, and thank you for joining me on Stage, Screen, and In Between. I just had a wonderful afternoon. Back in 1776, the musical. I'm at BroadHollow Theater, BayWay Arts, and I have with me the director, Glenn Beck. Hi, Glenn. Great show.
Oh, thank you so much.
How long did it take you to get this together?
We've been rehearsing since, it's probably about 7 weeks, 8 weeks.
And now you're kind of sharing the venues. You spent some time here, and you're moving on. You want to explain why you do that?
Yes, we have 2 locations. We have one here in East Islip, and we have one in Elmont. And we generally, the bigger shows, we moved from one location to the other, so that Nassau and Suffolk get to see the same show.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great idea, because Nassau and Suffolk County, they're large areas, and the people that live in Suffolk tend to like to stay out there as much as they can, and the same thing with Nassau County. So that's great, because I do know a lot of people that want to see you and catch this when you're in Nassau County. So let me ask you something. You had to have some very good singers in this show. What was the audition for that like?
The audition usually it consists of 16 bars. In this particular case, we sang from the show, and then they have to read for the parts.
You made her. And just as Tom here has written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the equal inside belongs to us. And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
Now, how many shows have you done here?
I've been here 12 years, so I've probably directed about 50, 60 shows in the time I've been here.
I have to tell you that I really appreciated the show, because you tend to forget what had to transpire for this country to become the United States of America, and it was enlightening, and it was patriotic, and it was very moving. And do you find that other people that come to see this have that kind of reaction?
I think you're 100% correct. The show is rarely done because there's such a large male-dominated cast. There's about 25 men in the show, and on Long Island, it's not easy to.
I didn't mind.
It's not so easy to cast in this kind of environment. So I think that people don't really know what to expect. When we said 1776, they go, it's a musical. Yeah. So, but it really portrays. You get to see how these founding fathers were real human beings first, above anything.
Right. And that they did sacrifice. They missed their homes, their wives. They were going broke, some of them, because they weren't tending their farms, and they really realized what was at stake. What sacrifice they made, didn't they?
Yes, some of their property was destroyed. They really were committing treason to do this, and so they all knew the weight of what was going to happen. Yes,
that's exactly right. At the end, we're giving away the end, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, and it is said that they're all signing their own certificate to treason, as it were, right?
Dr. Franklin says that, yes.
So now let me ask you, after this, what's next on the agenda?
Well, I'm taking a break since my wife is pregnant, so we're going to have a baby. That's the next show, the baby show.
Is that your first one?
Yes, it is my first one. So,
congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. So so we had the birth of a nation, and then I'll have the birth of a baby.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Thank you for speaking with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
I have with me here Ben Franklin, who's actually Rick Grossman, but you never would know it because you were so convincing, I've got to say.
Oh, you never know I was Rick Grossman or Ben Franklin? Well, thank you so much.
I never knew you were Rick Grossman, because I really thought you were Ben Franklin while you were up here.
Well, that's what I try to do, and it's always challenging to have to play real people rather than characters that an author invents, because you don't know exactly what your audience is expecting, and you have to show that this icon was actually a real person. And bring those facets of that. And these men they weren't perfect. They were just men. And
That's said at one part in the play. We're just men.
yeah, I have that line that we're only men, no more, no less, and we're just trying to do something that hasn't been done before. You know, we're not gods. We're just regular people.
Yeah. Now, during the play, you mentioned something about an invention. I invented the oven, did you say?
The stove. The stove.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I that was one thing. He invented many things, but he was kind of credited for inventing kind of a surface where things could be cooked on top of something rather than just in the oven.
Yeah, so I don't know if I should be happy with you or mad at you.
Well, he didn't stay around.
I'd like if you invented the restaurant. That would be good.
Oh, well, he did invent a beer that I found down in that they still brew in Philadelphia, but he was credited with a lot of inventions and being involved in a lot of inventions. He was a very complex, very interesting man, and did a lot even into his 70. He was 70 years old at the time of the signing, and then after that was ambassador to France and very active in government, right up until his death.
Did you do a lot of investigating on his background when you took on this role?
Well, yes, on this, I mean, I've also had some history with this piece before, and, been down to Mr. Franklin's grave in Philadelphia, where his parents are buried up in Boston, and, so I have done what I tried to do is not so much about what the public knows, but trying to find out about the person, the man, and he was a free spirit. He definitely was a free spirit.
Yeah. And it was very interesting on the way they did the voting, sliding the states to yay or nay, and it wasn't gee, this is a great idea, let's all do it. There was a lot of debate that went into this and consideration.
Well, yes, obviously, and I mean, it was, formed, it was patterned after the British Parliament, but, it's democracy and was one of the first great democracies to come about. Things have changed in almost 250 years, but what's so interesting is that the framework that these founding fathers put down is basically how we still operate our government today. And the one line about there it is, government, and back how even Plato had described it, and yet governments still, democracies still operate that way today.
Mm-hmm. So what's up next for you? Once this play moves, what do you have going?
Well, I'll be doing the second part of the run in Elmont. Then after that, I have 2 projects that I'm involved in New York, original plays.
You allowed to tell us anything about that?
Well, yeah, one is the big one I'm going to be involved with is an original play called The Canary that deals with the world of opera in Nazi Germany, and that's being done at a play festival in the city in May. And so I'll be going into rehearsal for that shortly.
Good. So you're keeping busy.
Thank God, yes. I've been very, very blessed and fortunate. And very, very blessed and fortunate to work with a really wonderful group of actors in this play. It's just a delight to be on stage with them, some that I have worked with and known in the past, and many that I'm working with for the first time. And it's just really a wonderful group of actors to share the stage with.
That's very nice of you, and I agree, they're very accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we have with us here Thomas Jefferson.
In the flesh.
Wow, you were really, really the greatest writer in the group, and you were kind of pushed into it seems like.
Pushed, dragged, it seems, absolutely.
What is your real name?
My name's Brian Elsesser.
Now, have you worked at BayWay before?
This is my debut performance at BayWay.
Nice.
Yeah.
A very impressive piece.
It's my first time doing it, my first time being a part of it, but some of my favorite time in history. So it's a pleasure to actually try to even closely replicate it.
Yes, it is. It's almost like a patriotic thing to be doing, to have a role like that.
You know, and to tell a tale of history that, you know, you hear it on the way out. So many people say, you know, wow, there's details that I just really didn't know or hear about, and that's really nice to be a part of as well.
I hadn't realized that there were so many changes in the wording, put this in, take that out. So it was very, very tedious. And you did have a deadline of July the 4th, right? Because everybody had left what they were doing. They were coming together, and it was do it now or don't do it at all, correct?
Yeah, and you know, and of course, everyone has an opinion, so you have to take it all into consideration. And I the man Thomas Jefferson, such a quiet gentleman, such a quiet man in Congress, and they even say that in the show. He had to take all of those different opinions into consideration, and at the same token, to be such a quiet person, I can only imagine what was going through his mind.
And it is so beautifully written when you read the Declaration of Independence. It also had to have some kind of divine inspiration, seems to be. I also loved how you loved your wife so much.
Yes.
I love when a man really misses his wife and wants to be with her, but you were young and you wanted to be with her, and that was so wise to call her to be with you. You couldn't leave. It's not like you could hop a plane and go back to Virginia, you know. They brought her here. What a great idea.
Thomas Jefferson was a devoted husband. And you know, she died early, unfortunately. But he, you know, and then he had a little bit. There's a bit of history where he had a little roundabout with one of his slaves. But he was devoted in terms of the marriage, in terms of his love for her, in terms of his relationship, and that was undying. His family knew of that before he passed.
Yeah. Well, great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have with me now Lloyd Baum, who is Samuel Chase from Maryland. Lloyd, you did a great job, and you really looked the part.
Oh, thank you, Helen. Actually, it's pronounced Maryland. We had, back then it was the colony was named for Queen Mary.
Really? I didn't know that. It was Maryland. Wow.
Yeah, Maryland, and Samuel Chase was at the time was a lawyer, one of many in Congress, who was kind of hesitant about voting for independence because he was afraid, obviously, of what would happen because it looked like the army of the continent was going to be totally wiped out by the British.
Yeah. It looked like Washington wasn't going to win, and you were so outnumbered that it was so risky. It took so much faith.
Yeah, it took a lot of faith, and we tried to keep to the historical part of it as much as we know. Obviously, there was nobody in Congress taking notes or taking video at the time, so a lot of it is supposition. But we had a pretty good idea as far as what was going on and who was on what side, and had what their thinking was.
Yeah. Now this was your debut, am I correct, with this theater company?
Right. Yeah, this is my first time with BroadHollow. Been doing a lot of stuff all over the place. So a couple of times with you, of course. But
are they treating you well here? Because I'm going to take you right back.
Yeah, they're treating me pretty good. I get to eat on stage, so.
Okay, right. I saw that.
Yeah,
I love the wig. It doesn't itch, does it?
Like tremendously, it does. Yeah, well, if you're not used to it, but.
Yeah, it really does. Now, let me ask you also. Now, all these men, they had to have conflicts between them, and some believed in slavery, some did not. So it was really a coming together to get. It had to be a unanimous decision. I didn't realize it had to be unanimous for everybody to want to have the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, that's true. And what you also had was the division where, as Mr. Rutledge says, we're looking to it as each colony to be its own independent state, dependent on the others for defense, but otherwise he wanted everybody to be on their own, which was shared by a lot of other people at times. Samuel Chase was one of them. Yeah. Samuel Chase was a total states' rights believer at the time. He changed his view later on, but that's history.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Helen.
And everybody can see you at the next venue, which is going to be at the Elmont Library, correct?
Correct.
Do you have the dates?
Well, our first performance there is on March 21st. That's Saturday night. Then we do Sunday. The following weekend is a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then we get to do 2 performances on April 1st. We have a matinee and an evening, and then we end the run the day before Easter.
Oh, okay. I'm going to make sure that I put the dates down. Okay? Thank you. I have Michael Buscemi here, who played John Adams. Now, let me ask you, Michael, what was the biggest obstacle in portraying this character and playing this role?
The biggest obstacle, that's hard to say. I think it's the energy, because John Adams in this piece is really the heart. He's moving the whole piece along.
Yeah, you're the driving force.
And you can't let up. You can't have a moment where you're going to relax or something. You have to really push it. And when the rest of the show is, you have to move everybody. You have to really keep going. And he's a very determined man to get independence.
Yes. And you weren't a yes man. If you didn't like something, down to the finest detail, you would say it. Oh, I think we should change this. And you were probably quite annoying to some of the people.
Well, they joke about it as being the most obnoxious and disliked person in Congress, which actually he wasn't. He was probably one of very respected of the of all the people in Congress, but he got the reputation of being disliked, obnoxious and disliked, because he was very determined, and he was from Massachusetts, and everybody thought who the hell he was, and but he was a driving force, and he pulls the show together. And it's quite amazing is that in school, you really don't learn about John Adams in elementary school. I mean, I don't remember learning about John. You heard about Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, but it's John Adams, and it's not until this musical was written that history gives him the cheer that yes, he's the one.
Gives him his due.
He gives him his due, and it's quite an honor to play him.
Yeah. And I was surprised by that, because I didn't remember his personality as being that demonstrative, and you really, really wanted to make this happen. There were some people that seemed like that they wanted it to happen, but the going was getting too rough. They felt that we were outnumbered. We were going to be losing the war against the English anyway. But you kept right on believing and believing.
Yeah, and you say to yourself, where are these men now? I mean, these 13 colonies. What a bunch of brave men that they risked their lives to put this, for the first time ever, to create a country like that. It's such a patriotic show to do. It makes me feel good to do it.
And I love the singing. Now, let me ask you, how much rehearsing went into you guys singing?
Well, we rehearsed for about 7 weeks, and it's split between acting and singing. So yeah, it's mixed in there.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been associated over here?
I've done a couple of shows here. I've worked a lot of theaters. This is like my 40th year performing. I'm only 40, folks, now.
You look too young. Really, you look great.
No, up there. But I've done a lot of work. I've done mostly people see me in musical comedies. This is not really it's a musical comedy, but this is more of a dramatic play with fun music.
Now, I'm sure your friends and family came to see you. What do they think of the wardrobe and the wig? And did they say anything to you? Did they rib you?
Well, they're glad that I have hair, because I'm not really having much hair right now. But they enjoy it. They come away from it thinking, oh, I didn't know about this show, because it's not rare. It's kind of rarely done, unless you've seen the movie every 4th of July on TCM, that you see it. But it's really because like other people have said, that it's a massive show for men, and you can't really get a lot of men to do it. And various ages, so it's hard to get them. So it's a hard show to do, and it's good to see. And I think audiences walk away feeling patriotism and enjoying it and learning something.
Now, let me ask you, when you go about doing a piece like this that has music and lines, do you concentrate more on one than the other? Do you mix it up, or do you say, you know what, let me learn the music first? How do you do that?
Well, you have to learn usually the music first, and then it becomes second nature. And then you kind of forget it, so you could do the book, which is the lines. And then it just starts to meld together. Then it becomes like second nature to you. But it doesn't mean that mistakes don't happen, but it's live. It's live, and something happens, you just keep going with it.
And one of the characters was sick tonight, and actually the director had to take over. So does that happen often?
Well, does it happen often? No, it happened last night, because the actor got sick yesterday. So another person went on yesterday. The musical director went on, Joe Mankaski, and then Glenn Beck, the director, went on today. It happens. It changes. Now I've done 3 different Dickinsons. It's an interesting mix. It's really exciting. Yeah. It brings something totally different to the show every night.
Yeah. And everybody has to think on their feet, right?
Yes.
Well, and what do you have coming up next?
Nothing planned. If something comes up that's interesting, I'll do it. But I'm kind of taking a break. You know, this is
After doing a run like this, it'll be nice to unwind a little bit, I guess.
I will be doing Elmont, so that's the next 3 weeks, and you should come out to see that.
I will. I'll come again. I really loved it so much. So thank you for talking to me, and I'm going to post those dates. So watch for them.